Okay, I think we're ready to go. Can you guys hear me? Zoom, can you hear me, Cody? Yep. And David. Okay. Awesome.
Presentation.
All right. So I'll just, I think we'll get started. We're just waiting for the screen to be shared. And once that's shared, you should be able to see the presentation. We have been given a hard copy. So Cody and David, if you want one, just ask Tara or Henry or Sam Delina. Here we go. There. Can you see that shared screen? Yep. Cody, can you see the shared screen? Okay, so the presentation is the presentation now. All right, awesome. I think we're all ready to go. Okay, so welcome everyone to this Council Member Procurement Workshop. So is this a public workshop? We've got live streaming, so welcome everyone. Welcome anyone who might be watching on YouTube. Welcome council members, staff, and I think that's everybody. I'd like to acknowledge the land that we gather on tonight is the traditional lands of the Kaurna people, and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the custodians of the Greater Adelaide region, and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still as important to the living Kaurna people today. So this workshop is on procurement. It's solely for the purpose of information sharing and not for the purpose of debating issues, building consensus positions, or otherwise discharging council's deliberative and decision-making functions. There's no agenda and there's no minutes. If you do have mobile phones, can you please turn them to silent? And if you need to take a phone call, please take it outside. And I don't think there's any requirement to go into confidence as far as I'm aware. So we have a number of staff here this evening. We have Tara Shilliger, who will be leading this workshop, I believe. We have Sam Delina, who's one of our managers, infrastructure, engineering, and something else. Services. That's it. Oh, yes. And we also have Nathan here from Risk and HR from Town of Gawler, and we have Paul Ward, who's the Manager of Finance and Corporate Services here. So welcome. Welcome. Now, do I hand over to Tara? So without any further ado, now Tara, to use the mic, you just press that and I'll put it on. That's it. Should be on. Okay. So welcome, and I'll hand over to you. You're in charge. Thank you.
Thank you. So let's get started. I've never used one of these pointers.
So you point to that.
Oh, right. Okay.
That's your data projector. So, and it should work. Is that working?
There we go.
Okay, awesome.
So why are we here? Oh, there. Oh, right. Back in August, I believe it was, there was a resolution passed by council to meet and discuss procurement, and there's a range there of areas that we're going to go through today. So how we organisation releases tenders, submission requirements, project cost benchmarking, how we attract local businesses, and the tender review process. I'll get used to that. Oop. Bit of an agenda. We thought we'd start with a bit of a procurement overview of where we are in council, linkage to the project management framework, procurement policy and framework. We'll touch on some of the key areas that will help inform discussions, and also that are quite topical at the moment. And then we'll go into releasing tenders, tender submission requirements, and the evaluation process. And we can enter into discussion at any time. So, bit of an overview. Now, we are on a bit of a business improvement journey with procurement, and we are in the process of collecting a lot of data but we're in our infancy. But we do know that we spend around $20 to $25 million per annum on materials and contracts. We don't have a lot of data around our select tenders, but we do know that we had 8 open tenders in 1920, valued at around the $3 million mark. And analysing our accounts payable data, roughly 20% of that total spend last year was with local suppliers. So that's local suppliers. That doesn't incorporate subcontractors or local supply inputs. And something that we'll work on in the future is understanding our select tender processes, but we'll go through that a bit later. So I've just got there a couple of the 4 key procurements that we went through in 1920: Walker Place, minor civil works, street tree installation, aquatic centre.
This way,
Over there.
That one?
Perhaps in the chair.
Oh, in the chair.
If not, it's a verbal next slide, Sam.
Next slide, Sam. Oh,
Oh, what are you doing, Sam?
comedy of errors tonight.
There you go.
Okay, so for 2021, we've developed a procurement plan, and this is one of our continuous improvement activities that we're doing. It's looking at what's in the procurement pipeline, looking for opportunities for aggregation and efficiencies. We've got 11 procurements up there, open tenders, and I think there'll be more as we continue to analyse our expenditure and review our processes.
So, Tara, if I could just interrupt there. So this is a new summarised version of our procurement plan that we've used to communicate externally. Is that correct?
Yeah, so this is the open tender section, and later on when we're talking local, I'll go into the local supplier focus.
Yep.
Yeah. So just really a snapshot that we've got a lot of procurements happening next year. Totals around $6 million, or this year, sorry.
Sarah, on construction there, we're talking about toilets again.
Yeah.
And it's got Apex Park and demolition of existing toilet block. Well, that's now been changed, hasn't it? So now we've got a toilet in the marketplace. Does that matter? That's not the correct words there.
Yeah, so this was developed in November, and it will continually be updated. I'm going to update it quarterly. So if we have a look at and it's a best endeavours document that it's really there to inform council, so inform us in our planning, but also inform the market so that so suppliers can come and have a look and see what kind of timeframes and what kind of business opportunities there are. So, you know, there's a couple of projects there that will, when I update it, which will be at the end of the year, we'll move to different quarters as well. It's really a best endeavours type document. Yeah.
Where's the street light?
Paul, just so everyone can hear you.
There's the LED street light changeover. Is that in that there, or is that somewhere else? Okay.
Somewhere else.
Okay,
Yeah.
no worries.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, next slide, please. Henry, I don't know whether you'd like to cover this one, but it's really around the split of the procurement and property.
Yeah. I'll just say a few words there. So around August, September last year, Rebecca Howard, who was our property and procurement officer, resigned, and leading to, as per her departure, which was very amicable. She wanted to sort of another opportunity, which is great. I had a conversation with her about where we are at with the procurement and property areas. We had previously spoken about workloads, about complexities in the property space and in the procurement space, the emerging sort of increasing activities and the risks to the business in terms of both those key functions of council. And it was quite clear to me that it was a risk for us to continue to have that as one FTE doing both those functions, coupled with the emerging need of us needing to be more active in the business analytics space. So I made a decision to split that role, and now we have a dedicated procurement person and a dedicated property person, and with Tara's skill sets, both in procurement and in data and analytics, then this is sort of a improvement in the business. And we were fortunate with Tara's experience, although Tara was not working in procurement when she joined Gawler. It was obvious that she had that skill set, and it was a smooth transition. And through the course of this conversation, you'll see that as a consequence of that, we're much better placed in respect to procurement moving forward with risk management, with Nathan's input as well. So we're certainly confident that we're in a better place than what we were 12 months ago. So.
Right, so we are undertaking a review of our procurement activities, and it's really around creating efficiencies, reducing council expenditure and the cost of doing business with council. Tender process is costly to us as well as the supply market, and if we need to be a customer of choice to attract quality suppliers, and if we're efficient, that'll be suppliers can pass on those efficiency or the savings to us. So, and at the end of the day, it's about quality outcomes for the community. It's also around improving our compliance and reducing our risk to the organisation. Some of the activities were really informed by a number of things. There's the South Australian Government's local government reform agenda, the productivity inquiry, recommendations from ICAC and the Ombudsman. They all contain recommendations around procurement, so they've really informed the activities that we're working on. Also, audit management letters and just general observation and research with best practice across the sector and also in other sectors. So we've developed a central contract register. Every time we think it's complete, another contract comes up. So it's a growing beast. We're collecting a lot of procurement data as well. So I'm really keen to see the efficiencies that we are achieving through our processes. And so we've got some baseline data, and I'm really looking forward to this time next year to see where we're at. We've also been updating our templates. That's a continuous process. I think we learn something new from every process, every tender process. So that's continuing. Central Forward Procurement Plan, we saw part of it a few slides ago. And then it's around training. And I think I've certainly seen the benefit of that already, I think, with increased knowledge across the organisation. We participated in an integrity framework review. It was a pilot program run by, facilitated by LGRS, and they really reaffirmed the actions we're taking. No new gaps were identified. So
if you just tell people what LGRS is.
Local Government Risk Services.
Yeah, so it's a segment of the LGA.
So it's a segment of the LGA. Yeah, so, and we will be, we've got an audit scheduled for next year. So I'm looking forward again, that's another way to test the processes that we're putting in place.
Yeah, Paul, yep, just turn you.
One of the questions I get asked all the time is about small operators and how they can participate in contracting. And a lot of them say, well, it's all the compliance we've got to put up with. They're not saying they don't want to do things, they want to do things safely and everything else, but just all the compliance hurdles they've got to get through before they can even get to the starting gate. So how are we dealing with that?
Yeah. It's certainly covered off later on in the presentation, but it is a challenge and it's a balance because we need to do our due diligence. We need to ensure that we're managing our risk, but at the same time, we want to what's the word? Want to make sure that you do give those opportunities. I think part of what we can do is assisting building capability. I know my past experience is quite daunting for small providers to fill out our tender documents. So it's around, providing, training or informal workshops or, a video how-to, and simplifying the language. So I've almost been in procurement for 20 years and it's still the same issue. So it's a challenge. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So before we get any further, we thought we'd just
Samuel, come over here.
It's got a mic.
I thought, speaking of Tara's presentation, I thought really is about demonstrating our processes and project management framework, which I know the board committee's seen. I don't think the council's necessarily seen it. There's been an enormous body of work that's gone into this over the last 18 months. It was identified as a delivery project is one of the most significant risks of the council. As one of our strategic risks, and we had to find a better way of managing that. Setting up a project management framework was the action to reduce the residual risk. And what that meant was effectively now been an 18-month journey that we've been on, enormous internal resource to develop this project management framework, which is effectively simplified into 4 stages. But what that's meant is it's given us greater surety and greater coverage of our risks in terms of our project delivery across the whole thing, whether it's political, cost, budget, stakeholder management, managing all of those risks. And I just wanted to do a quick, few-minute demonstration of what we've built, because it's all back of house, it's not really forward-facing, but this all goes to that due diligence, and procurement is a key part of this, particularly in regards to effectively stage 1, 2, and 3 really. There's a number of checklists, tool and acquisition plans and project management plans, templates that have been developed in the background, and Tara has been very valuable, as well as a number of staff are working group contributing to this development. So I'll just
I think Sam was going to say fantastic, but he's stopped himself.
Yeah, I saw him hesitate there a little bit.
I can't undersell how beneficial having procurement separated out from the business has been, in terms of really drive what Henry's and restoring efficiencies and savings for the council, efficiencies for my business with respect to aggregation of work, and really trying to embed the training, learning, day-by-day learnings, and bringing them in, continuously improving, and just bringing everyone along for once. That's been fantastic. So I just wanted to show you this is our intranet. This is an internal facing dashboard that our staff use. It's got a whole range of functions. Look up here, the project portal. So this goes into effectively our project management framework portal. What we do every year around once we've setting the budget, once the budget's just about set, we categorise our projects into large and complex projects and small to medium. And all of those projects are updated in this dashboard on a monthly basis. So effectively, you see we've got a number of projects that are identified as large and complex, and they go through a matrix to get to this point, and are peer reviewed by what we've established is a project management governance group. So the executive and key members of the staff meet on a monthly basis to talk about all of our large and complex projects, and to a lesser degree our smaller and medium projects, but particularly on a dashboard arrangement where they're green, yellow, red. So obviously focusing on the red and yellow, where we've got risks that materialise and issues that need to be managed, but also to provide the executive and that group to talk about the projects more broadly, observations of other ways, and just work collectively to keep shaping the project on the right trajectory. So, so all our projects are listed there. There's a number of fields that are populated. If I go back screen, so effectively there's a number of stages. There's a toolbox. There's templates that are in here that are being developed, and we're not finished this journey. We're probably, I'd say, 2/3, maybe half the way through, thereabouts. But we've adopted a progress over perfection. Let's get this happening. Let's get this moving. And we're really proud of what we've done. I've got a number of councils that are banging the door down to get look at what we've done, come and see us, because it is. I state government do have project management frameworks. We've tried to build keep it simple, system. It's not that simple, but it's effectively it's about balancing that risk and otherwise. But what it means is a lot more conversations happening internally, a lot more planning in the front, and a lot more review through the projects and at the end of the project. Lessons learned, capturing that in a register. Tara manages, and we're capturing that on a monthly basis. Once lessons learned, an action register, and then responsibility in tracking those actions. Now we're learning from all our projects. So, that's probably all I'll say about that now. We're just trying to demonstrate the rigor and diligence that we put into how we manage what we do every day in that project leader space. Any questions?
Sam, taking into consideration the way things are at the moment with, this bloody disease that nobody wanted and all that, and you keep talking about these projects and things like that. Who is it that instigates those projects? It doesn't come from the council laws. Where does it initiate? I mean, quite often I've said to you, like, for instance, Paul and I live in the coastal estate area, or he's in the elite Hamilton Park area, but basically the reserve area is a fantastic reserve area there. And all of a sudden we find out that the playground's going to have 35 grand spent on it for a new playground. And, Paul lives opposite. He's a bit too old to get on the swings now, but basically the amount of people that use it is very limited. And now there's going to be irrigation done I'll just pick on this one place, on Hemmerford Road. Who actually instigates those programs? Where does that come from? Whether it be the Williston, development, that we're talking about at the moment, and all those. Who plants the seeds as to what you as staff work on? Does that make sense? I'm
just not sure. This will be a long running here. With the combination of factors, we've got asset management plans that are given, and we have obligations to renew our assets. So in regards to Hemmerford Reserve playgrounds, that playground has got to end of life. That was our next highest priority playground to replace because it was beyond its end of its life. So if you went out there, you see the sections of it that were being held together with city paper. When we had the consultation, they members of the public were very keen to show you those areas. But that was just housings. But anyway, nevertheless, that playground got end of its life, so it was due for renewal. So we factor in an allocation in the budget. It goes through the budget process. It goes through a proper consultation. The members have a couple of sessions with workshops like this sort of forum to go through the bids, review them, provide some feedback, and then ultimately we land as our annual business plan and budget that's set. We also in that project had some stimulus funding that we sought to allocate with respect to shade sales and with respect to irrigation. So that little project is now become close to a $400,000 project, not a $35,000 project, but effectively demonstrated by the consultation we had 50, 70, it was probably 70 to 100 people come to that consultation day, really happy with what we were doing as a council in that location.
That was the first meeting that's been held in that area for that project. I was not to, maybe like when the fence was put around there, it was fantastic. And Paul and I lived there, and no one said to Paul and I, you council are doing a fantastic job. You put this fence up, you know, and so forth like that. I mean, at the moment, the heart of this organisation is sitting over there. And maybe that we should look at the point of some of these projects that we are looking at the moment. Maybe we just put them on the shelf for the second and Les gets back in front, because our finances aren't that good at the present moment, and we all know that. And so many times people say to me, well, who comes up with these ideas? And if you're going to put irrigation all over the park, is it going to be beautiful lawn and all that sort of stuff? And are you going to allow people to use it as a practice for hockey, for cricket, or whatever it may be, and so forth? At the present moment, everybody's dog around their manures the place, and that's about all that uses it. Paul's never seen anybody out there kicking a football or whatever. And I'm thinking, all that money is going to be spent on that area at the present moment that we're going through some tough times. You know, do we have to continue them on and so forth? You know, at the moment we're going to end up with 2 beautiful toilets around there. Well, hopefully everybody will use them. I'm trying to make a picture as to, you know, when do we just pull up a little, and who is it that actually says when a project comes on the drawing board, and then we apply for a grant and hopefully get some of the money for it. But out there in the community, people are saying to me, I don't know whether they're saying to Paul or David or Nathan, but where are the workers? Because it seems to me like that the persons on the ground, which are great blokes, but we've got such a huge area, and if I took you for a drive, which I did, and that sort of thing, I mean, the amount of high grass and everything, our town looks as though it's not touched. Now, I'd rather see one of these major projects shelved a bit, put on about 4 or 5 ground staff, and those grounds and those sit-on mowers are going flat out to make this place look really beautiful. I know I've scattered around a bit, but I'm just wondering who brings up these projects from the first place. Somebody would have had to do it. Did Nathan ask? Did Paul ask? I didn't ask. And then you guys have got to work flat out and try and get some money out of the heart over there. I just don't want to wear his heart out, because he's going to be one of the ones that keep this council financially into the future.
I suppose you've made another point in the new projects. There's some of what we deem would be discretionary, and one that we are really compulsory, and that's just renewing your existing assets. Now, we've got policies that have been adopted to say this is the level of expenditure we're going to be spending on renewing existing assets, and we're held accountable to that by our audit committee and by members of the public, per se, with respect to making sure that we maintain a certain condition of roads, certain condition of footpaths, certain condition of open spaces. We've done a hell of a lot of work to understand that condition, understand what we need to spend on that. So the council's signed up to managing those assets in that way. Where there is discretion with respect to is spending on new capital in new projects per se, but more recently the focus has been on stimulating the economy. So we've sought to bring forward more spending than on a greater range of projects than we've ever done. So that was a council, it's all based on council decision. So all of these matters are brought to council, whether in an asset management plan or in various strategic plans that we develop. There's a landscape irrigation management plan, cycling and walking plan, biodiversity management plan, storm management plans. All these management plans that say how we do best practice in the way we program our works, and they're resulting in new projects that are a direct beautification plan, which you guys will be getting on Tuesday night with your IS, and the first look at what that's being developed. That's going to nominate projects that will be new projects that will seek to beautify the town. And there's reports being sent to council shortly with respect to how we're going to plant the grass to start getting some of that happening on the ground. So it's really a combination of all of it's based on decisions of the council, based on the recommendations of staff, going back to strategic management plans. I think that's a simple snapshot.
Thank you.
Yeah, look, I think some of the views and the things that you've said there, Brian. I can see where you're coming from. I think the idea around this workshop, correct me if I'm wrong, is just trying to outline the process in when we engage contractors, tenderers, everything like that. The framework around actually choosing to do a new playground or end of life happens from a whole bunch of investigation that periodically happens. And this one was particularly at its end of life, so therefore that is now elevated. So I guess my motivation for moving the motion that sort of resulted in this workshop was around engaging locals to maybe build that playground, maybe lay that irrigation, maybe really make it simple for the contractors that may be watching us right now, or that we can forward this through on how they can engage with us on those projects. And I think the question around what projects we should be doing or shouldn't be doing is definitely valid, but probably not what we're here to discuss, with all due respect. So yeah, look, I'm keen to hear about the risk matrix if I could. The matrices that you ran through, and where you sort of outline what's high risk, what's low risk, and everything like that. Is that used as a bit of a setup on which contractors you engage, i.e. they have to be this tier of contractor? Does it filter that down? And sometimes you might look at a $50,000 job and it might just be a footpath, or it's a $50,000 job that's installing a well. So you have to really, is that what we're talking about when we look at those risk matrices?
As part of the project management framework, yes, as part of initiation and project planning. When we get to procurement, that comes through, and it's part of our acquisition planning process. So it's understanding the market, exactly what we want, and how best to get the outcomes that we need. So yeah, it's exactly that. Whether or not it's certain levels a DIT qualification for Murray Street Stage 7, for example. Or whether, so that is absolutely a factor as part of our planning process. And I've got a couple of slides on that. Yeah.
So we might there's not a lot of pre-qualification limitations that we apply to projects. To be honest, it's only the big projects.
Yeah.
There'd be maybe one, maybe two here.
We might let Tara keep moving, so it might actually answer some of your queries.
And I might move through pretty quickly and get to the bits that you're really after. So our procurement framework, we've got the procurement policy, and that is a requirement under the Local Government Act to have a policy in place. It was adopted in March 2019. It's reviewed every 4 years. As part of our review of our procurement operations, I think it's worthwhile having another look at it, and we're planning to review and come back to council with some proposed improvements. We're in the process of developing our procedures and guidelines, so that's really just documenting the process. So we have a process in place that's very consistent across the sector. We just didn't have it documented well. So it's just documenting that and making it easier for staff to follow. It's just there. And it's consistent and it's repeatable. So it's the same process that the suppliers also see. The procurement policy has a range of principles which are up there, and we're going to go through the key ones. So we can go through. I'll just touch on panel contracts and strategic alliances. So under our policy, we can use panel contracts and strategic alliances. It's a recommendation from the Productivity Commission around collaboration and aggregation, really around efficiencies. We have an alliance between the Barossa Regional Procurement Group that started in 2014. It's got Gawler, Barossa, Light Regional, Adelaide Plains and Murray councils are partners in that. And that's really around enhancing the local economy, improving our internal processes, making it consistent, again, helping suppliers with a consistent process, and then efficiencies and savings through combined processes and aggregation. Some of the bigger contracts, the road reseal, which I've got a couple of photos coming up around that, cleaning services, playground audits.
So just a question on LGA procurement.
Yep.
Do we get more, have they got what you would consider adequate panel contacts that are local? Or do you think there's less local contact with LGA procurement?
So LGA procurement, there are some local suppliers and they're very keen to add suppliers to their panels. As part of the Barossa Regional Procurement Group, we had a civil and a horticulture panel. We saw that there was a bit of a duplication of effort, us having our own panels. So we, this was before my time, but what we did was try to get the suppliers onto the local government association procurement panel, and that way not only do they have access to us, but they have access to all council business. So that's something that I'm really keen to see if we can facilitate. There's 33 panels, 450 suppliers, and they do need to hit the benchmark. I guess there's a level of due diligence, but LGA procurement are very open to assisting with that process.
So, because I've heard a criticism of LGA procurement that they don't nail the local supplier benchmark. They just don't do it. Is that improving?
I think so, and I think that's seeking input from councils. So it's about us helping them identify the suppliers and sort of leading, joining them together. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the use of the panels is obviously, there's an efficiency for us in that some of the work, the compliance work is already done, and then we can focus on, on the requirement and price. So it's really a secondary process, and it's beneficial to the suppliers as well, because they don't have to keep going through the same compliance type work that they're on the panel. Slide, procurement thresholds. So we have three levels. So under 10,000, we can do direct purchasing or a verbal quote. And the preference is for local, so local where possible. 10,000 to 100,000 is a request for quote, so minimum 3 quotes. Again, strong preference for local. You can just go local if there's a market locally. And panel contracts, so that's where we would go using the panel contracts or the LGA procurement. So direct purchase, so up to 100,000, you could go direct. So there's some efficiencies. We still need to ensure that we're achieving value for money. And then above 100,000 is open public tender. So request for tender. Do I need to explain the difference between tender, proposal? Yep. So request for tender is when it's specified. We know exactly what we want, and it's about the market telling us how they're going to do it, and it's and demonstrate their capability to do it. Request for proposal is more when there's multiple solutions, or we're not necessarily we're open to how it can be delivered. So it's about them proposing their offering. Expression of interest could be either we're not quite sure what we want or how something could be delivered. So we might do an expression of interest first, work out exactly what we want, and then we would do a secondary process, a request for tender. I'm not sure whether we've done one here recently.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Where does design and build come into that? Just the design and construct, where does it fit in?
Yeah, it'd be a proposal or a tender. It depends on how specified how much we've specified. So I guess, yeah, it could be a tender or a proposal. Generally a proposal, I would say.
Request for proposal.
It's reasonably uncommon. We have an approach that with respect to the level of procurement that we do. I think it's a bit uncommon. Spec up has been working for a large project. I'm at the lead quite recent for the design and construct approach. Right. There's a bit of risk that we carry with that approach as well. But effectively, the majority of our work is design and separate construct, so two separate procurements per se.
Right. Okay.
I would see a request for proposal is more around services.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Expression of interest you may also use for where there's a large market and you don't want to put the market through a whole process. So you may use that as a bit of a pre-qualification to the next process, and that's something that we'll be looking at, I think, when it comes to the stimulus programs. Is sort of something that's really simple and easy to get as much engagement as you can, but we're still working through that.
I had a very good conversation with yourself, as you know, a couple of months back, and you explained to me why elections are open. Are you able just to clarify that again? I'm just obviously seeing all the requests for tender and it's a wide open process. Are you able just to explain that again for us? I know it's around the policies that we have to follow, but
Yeah, so council set the threshold of 100,000, so anything above 100,000 needs to be public tender. The only exception is where we're using a panel. So we could use the LGA procurement panel for anything up, above 100,000, but it's quite rare. We do that so we get as much competition as we can. So it's about giving the market an opportunity and getting the best value. Does that answer? Does that cover it off? Yeah. Next, sorry. And we've got some delegations in the policy. So Henry has $1 million. Anything above $1 million comes to council, and that's why you saw the Murray Street Stage 7 procurement council report. I think it was last month or earlier this month. Yeah. Executive managers have 500,000, and then it drops from there. So this is all prescribed in our procurement policy. As part of our review process, we deliver benchmark across other councils. Our procurement thresholds and our financial delegations are quite consistent. There are a few, the large councils have unlimited delegation for CEs, but generally it's around the $1 million mark, and very consistent. Now we're going to the principles. So value for money. Lowest price does not always represent best value, and it's a combination of cost, quality, and risk. And we'll go through that later. Slide. Probity is key. It's about acting with integrity, fairness, and honesty. It's about having treating all suppliers fairly and equally, all decisions being justifiable and documented, confidentiality, and managing conflicts of interest. So, these principles really inform all of our processes, and we'll have some other probity controls around the tender process later. Support of the local business industry. I'm just going to go back to my notes because I'm more mixed up. So this is what's in the procurement policy. Local is within the 20-kilometre radius of the town of Gawler. It's about, while still aiming for a value for money, it's about supporting local businesses where we can. We have a discretionary weighted criteria between 5% and 30% that can be applied towards local. And we also can do a select quote, minimum of 3 quotes for anything up to 100,000, direct to local. So that's what's in the policy. And this is where just some recent examples of where we've achieved some local benefits. They're your projects, Sam. 40% labour for Walker Place, Gawler Aquatic Centre, 60% labour, etc. Local supply for Musgrave Reserve.
So, Tara, just to that,
Yeah.
what the policy, in terms of implementation of that goes into the tender process.
Yeah.
So generally, I think we have 15% for non-stimulus projects, but effectively 15% of our weighting for these tenders. So every one of those tenders there, you'll see that they had a weighting of 15% per se, and then it's the conversation we have post-tender that effectively reinforces prior to award those expectations with respect to local. So I think we've been able to demonstrate on those projects just how much of this is actually being gone into the local economy. So one of the things we haven't been good at in the past, we just haven't resourced, is to track and capture this data, which is something that we're looking to do more effectively moving forward.
Yeah.
But this is just a quick snapshot. We're really keen to make sure we've got things tonight. Just in some of the more recent procurements undertaken, how much is going back into our local economy in the spend.
Okay. So for 2021, minimum evaluation weighting of 15% towards local and social inclusion. Got the criteria up there. It's very much aligned with the South Australian Government's industry participation policy. Again, it's about keeping things quite consistent and standardised across the sector. It makes it easier for suppliers. I've seen it before. And yeah, for the stimulus funded projects, there's a mandatory local benefit component. So again, it's not necessarily local, they don't have to be a local supplier, but there has to be a local element to their bid.
Has it got a percentage on that, or haven't they articulated that yet?
For their local supplier?
For the stimulus
for the IP, the industry participation policy, or
for the stimulus funded projects, mandatory local benefit.
Yeah, so we're saying it's mandatory requirement that they offer local. And then we also have a 15% weighting towards it. So it's a.
Oh, I thought that was the state government.
Oh no, this is ours.
This is ours.
I've just modelled, we've modelled it on.
No, sorry.
And then just to that question, is that they provide their bid or their offer with respect to what their local benefit they're providing, and then we can assess that across different offers that are being provided. Some of that obviously more than others, and that goes into the evaluation because it's not got a higher level of local benefit. We're going to score higher in the evaluation, and price is maybe 50% or less of the overall evaluation of that tender. So it is quite a significant variable in that process.
Yeah, and it can be a differentiator. Yeah.
Who wants to go next?
Yes, when you say local contractors and that, so whenever a project comes up, whether it be planting the rubbishy grass out of the rusty fingernails or something like that, I mean,
they're growing really well.
Sorry?
They're growing really well. I'm fabulous.
But what is
No, they're not. They're lovely.
But does every contractor know? Because there's 9 of the same people as the Mount Pleasant people that got the job. There's 9 of them in Gore, and 3 of them had to go at me. And that, are they informed because they're a registered business of that calibre, and then it's up to them to apply or put in a tender? I mean, 2 of them said they never heard anything about it. So how does that work? That part?
Yeah, this is what we need to get better at, and we'll talk. I've got some slides on that, but so for the select tenders, so anything under 100,000, which appears, we're still looking at the data, that seems to be a lot of our expenditure, we can get through quotes. Now, it's understanding who's in the market and how we can find out who those suppliers are. So yeah, it's around our market research, whether or not we can maintain a register if they're interested in local government business, can we, and then we can put it out. It's a tough one. So how do we get our message out, and how do they inform us who they are?
It's a two-way street.
It is, yeah.
It's a two-way street.
Yeah, and so for open tenders, I say if you're interested in doing business with councils or government, then you need to be on SA tenders, because that's the website, that's open tenders. But when it comes to the select tenders, yeah.
I think in the advertisement that I read every morning, and that sort of thing, where you see that there's tenders needed for government things. I can't remember the last time I've seen Gore listed in there, and I'm just wondering, I mean, are we part of that? Because maybe somebody could be reading the paper at the same time and think, oh, well, I'll apply for that tender or whatever it may be. I mean, I don't know how the system works, but I know what people say to me, you know, that we never get the opportunity to do these sort of things, and our town is full of fantastic business people that are really working their butt off when it comes to bobcats and things. I've got a guy that lives down next to me that he's doing a huge amount of work at the moment with his grader and his bobcat and his water truck and everything at Malala. And he says to me, he told me today actually at the funeral, he said, I never ever get an opportunity to be able to apply to the Court Council for getting any work. So that's why I asked the question.
It is a two-way street, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a two-way street. Also, I think, you know, I'd be interested to understand who those businesses are, and we can, you know, they can get onto the vendor panel, because it's not only just Gawler business, it's other business, and we're really looking to use the vendor panel where we can, because that's where we're going to get some efficiencies. But yeah, it's a tough one. So yeah, they need to let us know who they are as well.
Paul?
I just want some clarification about this 15% weighting for local businesses. Is that when all other things are equal? Is that what it means? All other things are equal, that this then gives weighting?
No, it's 15% out of our evaluation.
For example, if I'm just thinking like price wise.
Yeah.
So if a local business is more expensive than somebody else, but they have more local content, do they get a weighting for that? Does the fact they have local content over cost? So yeah.
It depends how we're assessing price. So sometimes price is a percentage of the evaluation. So out of 100, we're saying local is 15% and price may be 50. So that's where it comes in. And if price is all the same, well then, you know, it's a range of things that we look at in an evaluation. And I've got a slide on sort of all those areas. So yeah.
I think it makes a significant difference in making the tender for Musgrave Street, which had the original screen there, and it's asbestos issues. That having the high degree of local content of that contractor, who was a local contractor, they got that job because of the evaluation was tilted this way, it pushed it to a more local. So that was an example where I know we've got a local benefit as a result of this weighting. That's the most recent units we've done. So it's a high percentage. 15% is a high quantity in the overall valuation. Look at the other criteria we're also assessing against. So it is price is generally the highest, and 15 is actually represent one of the higher categories.
So,
Okay.
I suppose just on that, does that mean that a local supplier who may be more expensive, who might have local content, could get the tender over somebody at a lower price?
Potentially.
Is that equitable?
Yes, it depends on the split.
Yeah, I mean, but
Yes,
is that
yes.
value for money?
Because value for money is more than just price. So value for money is more than just price. It's a combination of quality, risk, and cost.
Mm. But you wouldn't want to pick somebody that's double the price.
No.
That's basically price gouging.
Yeah.
Yes.
The system will allow, the 15% doesn't allow that degree of, we're probably talking more about 10% potentially, the premium maybe more. But that's the order of, and it all depends on the quantum of the other where the company has towards local engagement, but everyone's talking the score out of 10, and out of 10 that goes to, so a 10 would be 15%, the 5, then 7.5. They just thought.
I can probably simplify this even further again if you like. So if we're tendering on government jobs, statewide jobs or anything like this, it's a very similar sort of structure. 65% of it will be price weighting, 15% of it will be local content with the IBP, which is around. So it's where we're trying to show what local benefit it is, and we're going to try to do the IBP, the Industry Participation Plan, to show how we are going to try to benefit locals. And then the other 35% goes to our methodology, our safety, our risk mitigation, and all that sort of stuff. So if you've got 3 tenderers or 4 tenderers, that the 65%, which is price, are all the same, the other 15 and 35 become very, very valuable. Or if the price weighting is around the same where the market would be, then the local content becomes very valuable, as Sam was saying. So it doesn't allow you to turn around and go, well, we're just going to choose local because it ticks all the boxes. It mitigates all that, but it promotes as well. So that's why that 15% is actually, although it only sounds like 15%, is actually quite important, because it could be the deciding goal.
I'm quite happy with that, as long as we're not paying over the odds or something. That's my view, yes.
And it was also about your methodology on how you're going to produce it, because as Cara said, it's not just about cheapest price is the best value.
Yeah.
It's about getting the outcome the best, safest way that you can, because although you're 65%, your price might be rock bottom, if 15 and 35% don't weigh up, well then you're not ticking those boxes.
No.
So that's where this process becomes very simple, and it protects council as well. It's just about getting the message out there.
It's also not about local, not necessarily local companies, like the Street Tree project and the Link project, not a local company that had a significant, because of the way we went through the tender process, the requirements, that they focused, the high focus on that in their tender, 15 staff allocated to that project that worked locally. So it wasn't a local company, it was Master Construction Services. For that work, there was a high level local benefit that comes with that as well. So it's not just, and that project, the point I want to make before, taking out the cost is that came in probably 30 to 40% of our project as well. So it's a high independent project with a high level of content. So it's not always costing more, I'm not going to say that.
The only reason why I ask is there has been some reports, like audit reports and other reports, that have actually suggested that the local content may push the price up. There was one or two reports I've read that have said that, so that's why I asked. Yeah.
I think it's actually, I think it's really good when you do have local, when there is a core focus, because as Nathan and Tara said, that there's appropriate splits that mitigate gouging, and that's really important, so that you're going to get the best contractor for the job that you want with all the value adds. The Walker Place project was interesting because you achieved quite a high local content, and I think the company was really quite proud of that. And I think it's something you can badge, when you engage and you've got people in the local community spending money, you actually get, I'd really like to know what that value add looks like. What does that cost look? I mean, it's a modelling exercise, but there'd have to be some sort of modelling programs out there that would allow you. So, if you put up that previous slide of where you had sort of 20, 40, 60 or whatever it was, what does that mean for the local economy? How can you model that if you've got so many workers? And, I think that's quite useful data to add to, there's so many people working, but we know that those workers spent money in that area. They also went to the optometrist, got new glasses, for example. There's a whole range value adds for other businesses. Yeah, anyway, I think it is an important component of it. I don't know if there's a real, well, I certainly haven't seen a real practice of price gouging. You know, I think that's always a fear, but I'm not sure that is in fact the case. And you're nodding, Sam.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. Okay.
So here's the other part of,
I don't know what I'm doing.
here's the other part of our procurement plan. So this is our local sourcing focus. So this is not standard practice. So generally you would have a procurement plan for open tenders only, but this year, you know, getting the message out, our focus on stimulating the economy, we have published some of our local, smaller procurements in an aim to really show the market what we're doing and get them to tell us if they're interested.
Is there a saturation point? So this is great in theory, but when things are good and there's lots of work, how hard is this to deliver on?
Yes.
Because you know, is there a reasonableness around that you know, if the market's good and you can't get the workers, what's the next step?
I think I think one of our risk mitigation strategies has been to not do any works this year because we know that the market's busy. Calendar year, sorry, yes. So we've deliberately deferred it because our market intel tells us that this year's crazy, and I know personally, getting a tradies out is hard. And then it's working through what the best strategy is. We haven't. So for the facilities upgrades, we still haven't scoped the work, but it's, I guess, it's tough, and I think it's a tough market for all of our projects.
Because there has to be a flexibility around that. You know, like defer, but you can't. You know, you still need what you want to be able to get into the market, but you don't want to be price gouged.
That's right.
Or not be, you know, or lose tenders because you demand local, and you know that, and they're telling you that we can't get the workers, they're all busy somewhere else. Nathan?
Yeah, I think timing is key. This is where the government actually probably get it wrong, to be honest. They get all this funding and they want to get all their projects going before Christmas. So we've got a bunch of tenders coming across our desk now that we're chasing contractors for pricing that are way too busy to price. So we're going to start seeing those prices come through as if they don't want the job, but we don't have the prices to compare.
Sure.
So all the builders are in the same position, or contractors, and a $1 million job will probably cost like 1.3 just because of that factor. So picking the right time in the market is very important. And I think that you were talking about saturation. I think that it's not about just this one time either. It's also about the consistency of you might put these projects out to market, you know, February, March. You might, when people are starting to look for work again and whatever else, kind of fishing, who knows, you know, that's when you might do it. You might start doing it at the same time every year. And when you start finding out that that's effective, then happy days. If it's not, then you might adjust a month or forward or whatever. But we can't do all those things state government, so at least that's to put about.
That's true. Thank you.
And this is very much a trial. This is, you know, us working on improvement, and you know, obviously, this is interesting times in the market. And I know, you know, a risk mitigation exercise is, you know, seek local, but also seek others, and we can compare pricing.
These aren't full stimulus, so if they've lost the local focus, it's not a mandatory requirement, so that in first instance will be targeted local. I think one of the key things we've learned already is very short time that's gone from financial ruin to complete saturated market. Just seeing it private, we're seeing it as a government in terms of prices that are not coming in. We have to be very flexible, and we're applying lessons learned very rapidly in regard to extended time to the operate, and that's a big one. And had a discussion today with members from Murray Street, the military briefing. I got in the room and eyeballed them because it's the only but there's a mandatory briefing, so whoever comes there is the only ones that can tender. And I brought them all and said, we really, there's a X percentage chance of winning the tender. We really want you to put a tender in. And how do we make sure, how do I make sure now that you can put a tender in? Is this date for putting the tender in realistic? Right? What if we go to request this date? Is that going to work? And then effectively agree, get at least a social contract. Now, I will social contract with these contractors, they will commit to an intended with, given the time. So I think we need to be adaptable to that. What it means we'll have longer delivery times, we've seen that with the toilet block. When we put the report to cancel, a pre-fabricated toilet, there's a 6-week lead time. In the 3 weeks it's taken since we've got the claims information for it to cancel, going back to the same slide, it's now 14-week lead time. No. And
everybody's in the same boat.
They're all the same boat. There's the same message across the sector. Yeah. It's just so I think we need to be flexible with respect to how the time frames that we have. So that's not doing ourselves. But
okay, thank you. Keep going.
So attracting and supporting local business. So, sorry.
It's annoying, isn't it?
Attracting and supporting local business. So this is where we really need to improve. And we've got some possible strategies, and thank you for your initial feedback, Councillor Shanks. But we're certainly open to other feedback and other suggestions. So social media posts, advertisements, videos with yourself, Mayor Karen, or videos with the Gawler Business Development Group. So we're partnering with those industry bodies if we can, regular updates. I think, I'm open to feedback there. And then not only is it about improved communication and engagement, I think it's also about building capability. So it's understanding how to fill out a tender document, making it as easy as possible. Regular information sessions or workshops, and linkage to, so there's a SA Products and Service Register that government agencies go to when they're looking for something. So our suppliers, our local businesses could get on there. SA Tenders website, so again, that's the place where you go if you want to work with government. And then there's the LGA Procurement Pre-Qualified Panel, so we can do some work there as well.
Yeah, so where I see the potential in that is just creating a simple space that our contractors can be pointed to. And that's where that spreadsheet that we saw before around what projects are coming up sits. You constantly sort of pointing. I mean, I know Brian and I'm sure Paul does as well, and all the local members get those conversations from the businesses in town, or, why don't you use local? And that's where we're handballing them to. That's where we're saying, you know what, go on to this portal or this website. So you have everything you need to know. And it needs to be delivered in such a way that they get to it and it's very obvious and easy. Because these businesses are busy. A lot of them are tradies, and I'm allowed to say that because I'm a trader. So you're allowed. You have to be able to be engaged simply, and it needs to be a process that can be adaptable and engaging. And it's the same spot. It's the same watering hole that they know where to go, and it doesn't change. It just adapts. And then all those improved communications and engagements on social media posts and everything are the big fluoro lights pointing to that.
Okay. Another one about principles is about environmental protection or sustainability. So that's what's in the policy. You might go straight to the next slide, Sam. And we've just got some examples of where we've used or sustainability has been incorporated into our tender processes. I might hand this one over to you, Sam, if that's all right.
You probably won't spend too much time alone. Is that effectively we now mandate in our tenders in environmental innovation, because we're not necessarily always across what's currently out in the market and seeking for that feedback to come through. We also push environmental innovation through engagement with Norma, CEO has been pursuing, and our recently contractors try to connect the dots, per se. And more recently, the efforts we had in the paper with Diana and that Conifel project using 30% recycled asphalt, hundreds of thousands of soft plastic bags and tens of thousands of toner cartridges in our roads this year. So it's a fantastic outcome, and that's something we're going to perpetuate now into the future. And looking at other opportunities, just today I had a conversation with Salisbury, and the work that they're doing with Bayford through Boral, who their contractor is. And this problem that Norma's got with glass that's cost more than $1 million, I think it's going to be resolved in the this year. So it's $1.5 million savings on the bottom line, because they're currently Boral crushing the glass and then mixing it into their bubble and using it underneath in their roads and footpaths, so
It's really come a long way very quickly, hasn't it?
very quickly.
And just having that facility at Norma now
Yes.
has opened up several markets. Yeah, and Boral, I mean, I think it's quite exciting.
You're actually saving the landfill costs.
Yeah,
That's
because the glass was a real issue. What to do with glass and how to get it out of landfill.
Because landfill living, so you're saving that 1.4.
So at the moment on Smith Creek, there's a shared trail that goes through Bayford and Salisbury. They're currently redoing that trail, and there's glass lines coming out of Norma and back into that trail. So and
that's all about that carbon footprint as well. So they're complete circular economy, isn't it?
No extra cost, but a saving to the operating budget. And there's other projects that we're doing in terms of all this innovation, looking at the opportunities to reuse plastic bollards, that energy reserve. That's the plastic that we've got from that company Norma goes to the APR, and they're called, and then we've got it. So it's circular.
Benches that you guys have done as well. Source up.
Yeah, same benches and bollards. So that's all. The bench seats and tables we get the park reserves. Fifth Street, like that playground bench reserve would have been a plastic one. Maybe that's not coincided on 99.9% sure would have been, and it would have been from more of the plastic cells. And there's obviously some other examples of environmental sustainability principles that have been embedded in some more recent projects in terms of recycled timbers and LEDs, wood and recycled bulbs. We can always get better and improve. And today, certainly in the mandatory tender briefing, one of the contractors, you tell us, you come to us with options. We're happy to hear innovations. That's going to be it's a score in the evaluation process. So happy to work with people in that space.
Right, releasing.
It's great. It's so much fun.
Releasing tenders to market. So before we go out to market, we did our planning, and that forms a part of an acquisition plan. I think this is the most important part of the stage of our process. So there's a range of things we go through, objectives of the procurement. It's not necessarily about getting the cheapest offer. Sometimes it's around managing risk, or it's about efficiencies, or it's guaranteeing supply. And understanding exactly what we're after really helps to inform our evaluation. Market research, so who can do it? Local supply is embedded within our acquisition planning documents. I'll keep going. Whole of life costs, so it's not just about the initial cost, it's about maintenance as well. Scope of requirements, and then all of that really informs whether we're going open, select or direct. And then what kind of tender it is, so quote, tender, proposal. The evaluation process is documented in the acquisition plan. So who's going to evaluate, what are we evaluating and how? And this is all signed off by the evaluation team and the delegate and anyone else supporting the process, and includes a conflict of interest declaration. And procurement approval is approved before we go out to market. So up front, we know exactly how we're going to go to market and how we're going to evaluate before we go out to tender. Or quotes. So when I say tender, I'm using it as a general term from here on in. Yeah. Generic, yeah. So our tender document, we use standardised LGA procurement templates, very similar to state government as well. And we do that to provide consistency for suppliers, and they've done the work for us, so it's an efficiency for us as well. There are 5 parts. Conditions of tendering is the rules. Draft contract we provide, particularly for the larger tenders, because that helps the suppliers understand the risk and the conditions of contract that we're looking to enter into. And the level of information in the document is really defined by the value, risk and complexity. So you can probably go on to the next slide, Sam. So when we go into submission requirements, there is a lot. So I've put everything up there to show how much, but it is dependent on the type of procurement it is. So request for quote, you might not necessarily need the level of detail that you need for a tender. But there's compliance and risk related requirements, and then there's the qualitative sort of requirements where they really need to demonstrate to us their capability or how they're going to deliver the requirement.
Just on what we're requiring from tenderers, is there a way that I'm just eye-moving on the other side of what is requested from a technical tender, for example? Typically, sometimes with a government tender, some of those items like financial capacity and all that sort of stuff actually come into it when you shortlist it, opposed to right up front.
Yeah, so we have put in place some of those improvements. So now all you do at this stage is basically outline whether you agree to provide some financial statements if you are shortlisted. Yeah. And a lot of the compliance stuff is, yes, no, or providing a certificate. So, and a lot of that information they would already have.
Sorry, I'm just looking around here. Sorry, I just turned it off. Sorry, I was trying to get rid of Nathan. Not get rid of Nathan, but get rid of the mic.
Yeah.
If I could just on that, can I get in?
You can't, I know.
Just on that, in terms of the level of probity that we're providing, I won't go into any details, but we have abandoned a recent procurement process because of some concerns in terms of conflicts. So we take that seriously, and recently we have abandoned a procurement and we'll go back to market again.
Tender call period, so open tenders are advertised on SA tenders and contracts, and new initiatives in I guess an aim to involve the local supply market, the bunyip and social media. We don't necessarily advertise in the Advertiser or other publications unless we feel we need to. That's something that the state government stopped. Also, just due to cost and the fact the market knows to go to that website. Yeah. We have a minimum 3-week tender period, but as Sam said, we're really extending that at the moment. Not only is it market capacity, but it's Christmas and so where possible, give respondents as long as they can, as we can, and industry briefings are held early in the tender call if we need them. Select tenders. So these are emailed direct to the suppliers, or we use an LGA procurement vendor panel. And the tender call is generally shorter.
Tara, regarding the point back on page 6, it's mentioned there about the team leaders got 50,000, town service coordinators 5, things like that. When it comes to the point of advertising in various media outlets or whatever it may be, those managers make that decision. That doesn't have to come back through you, as long as it's working within their budget. The reason for it is I buy the Leader, which is a fantastic paper, you know, and I got that the other day, and in the middle of it, it's got this magnificent magazine called...
Sorry, that was my fault.
What have I done?
That's all my fault.
Magnificent magazine called The Barossa. And it is a magnificent magazine. Well, when I opened it up, and I've actually cut it out because I want to keep it, because it's one of the best advert that I've ever seen, and it's just Civic Centre promoting it and things like that. Probably $3 grand worth. So that's all done by the manager.
Yeah.
I just wonder when I see money being spent as to how it's actually, if it's worked within the budgets that are set out, what you've got on page 6 there. Well, I think I understand it a bit better, but you know, I sometimes wonder about some of the money and how it's been spent. But that's on my ideal margin.
Yeah, so it's all within the delegations that's on the page. Yeah. Tender call period. So there's a range of probity controls that we have in place. There's one nominated contact person for the process, and that's just to ensure that each tenderer has the same access to the same information in a timely manner. Clarification and additional materials are made available to everyone. So if it's an open tender, it goes up on to Tenders SA. And if it's a select tender, then it's emailed to everyone that's been invited. Tenders are submitted electronically, either through, again, Tenders SA, or through, we've got a dedicated email that is managed by the procurement team, so independent to the evaluation team, or through the LGA procurement vendor panel. We manage, so the procurement team manages the tender receiving process as well, just provides a little bit more independence, and latent tenders are not accepted unless it can be demonstrated that there's a fault of the server or Evaluation criteria. So this looks very much like the tender response schedule, and that's because if we ask for it, we evaluate it. There's non-weighted criteria, which is really around compliance and risk, and then there's weighted criteria, which is really tenderers demonstrating their ability in those areas. Again, it depends on the complexity of the procurement as to what the criteria is. We don't use these criteria for everything. I've just popped them there just to give you an understanding of the types of things we evaluate. Price, so that how we evaluate price is also defined in our acquisition plan, and it may include lump sum, hourly rate, scheduled rates, just depends the nature of the tender. It should take into consideration whole of life costs and where required. So generally we let the market determine what's good value from a price perspective, but sometimes there's where there's a lack of competitive tension, we may need to benchmark that through the use of a cost estimator and risk. So all of that combined is our value for money assessment.
Yeah, just looking at that. So all tenders, regardless of the quantum, the amount, you use this evaluation criteria. What I'm getting at is that if you've got a smaller operator that doesn't have all those things in place compared to a bigger operator, they could be cut out of the whole system. Yeah.
It's dependent on the complexity risk of the project or the procurement, so as to whether or not we need all of those criteria met, so that's defined up front. But, you know, there is a level of due diligence required, yeah. So, there was in our policy, 10 million public liability insurance requirement, and LGRS, local government risk services are now stating that it should be 20 million minimum. So, you know, there's some
Gone up a little.
yeah.
The reason I ask, for example, the quality management systems, I've been involved with those in education, and they are so time consuming, it's not funny. And if I was, it's when I was working with TAFE, that was fine. If I was a private provider of education, I would spend all my time just doing the quality management system.
Yeah. So you don't necessarily need to be accredited, it's just whether you have one in place. And if you don't have one in place, well, that doesn't preclude you, it just means that you might not score as high as someone that does.
And in that particular circumstance, it's likely to be a lower percentage, normally quality environment, maybe 5%, potentially on
Yeah. Tender evaluation process. So we have 3 members minimum on the evaluation team. All information regarding the tender evaluation is confidential. We have to rely on the information in the tender submission. Any previous experience must be discounted. I'm not sure that's the right word, but we really need to put all of our preconceived ideas at the door when we come in and evaluate, because everyone needs to be considered equally. Justification for all scores are documented. Pricing is generally assessed after we've done our qualitative evaluation, and that's to avoid the risk of bias. Because, you know, go straight to price and you're already forming an opinion of what might be in the tender. So it's good to do the qualitative evaluation first and then look at price. Risks and issues are identified, and we do due diligence. So that may involve referee checks, financial viability assessments, site visits, presentations. So anything that helps us to understand the offer and feel comfortable with what they're offering, but it's not an opportunity to provide new information. We may or may not negotiate, depending on the bid. So they need to put forward, tenderers need to put forward their best offer as part of the submission. Process and evaluation outcomes are documented in the evaluation purchase recommendation, and that's approved by the delegate before we award tenders and execute contracts. And we always provide an opportunity for a debrief for unsuccessful suppliers, and I like to think of that as being two-way. So we need feedback as well. Yeah.
When you refer to minimum 3 members, how are those 3 members selected to be the evaluation team?
It's generally based on their knowledge. So they're generally working in that area. I also like to have someone that's relatively independent, so then they don't have any preconceived, experiences. Yes, but yeah, generally they've got technical experience in the area that we're procuring in.
Sorry, just to be clear, that's 3 staff, not 3 members in terms of council members.
Well, I thought that was on this one.
I'm sorry, yeah. No,
staff.
it's staff, sorry.
Yeah, well, my only point is, as long as they know, well, naturally they can check that, I suppose, but yeah.
We've ripped through the end part of the presentation. I guess wanted to just finish up by saying, we've got a range of procurement procedures and processes, and it's all around obtaining value for money, ethical and fair treatment of participants, and ensuring probity. And it's a continuous improvement exercise. We're always learning, and it's really we're really looking to create efficiencies for council and the supply market, and reducing our expenditure, opportunities for savings, particularly in this environment, and improving our compliance. Our primary objective, though, is quality outcomes for the community.
Well, thank you very much for that. I guess a couple of my notes, just coming from a builder point of view. Yeah, 4 weeks is preferable for us, and especially if we're doing a mandatory briefing in that first week. To be honest, the tenders don't really get started until after that mandatory briefing. So we might look at the docs, but we're confirming a whole bunch of stuff during that mandatory briefing that then we are answering a whole bunch of RFIs and stuff like that with contractors. So our tender process starts when we leave that meeting, really, you know. So the more time the better, but it is also important not to give 6 weeks because it's always left to the last minute. So it seems like a good sweet spot, just as a general comment there. Around the review of the policy, just to clarify, I thought you said that you're up for review, but it's up for review every 4 years. Just given the way that I'm seeing how DIS are doing their processes, every single time we see a new lot of funding, they seem to change their processes a bit. They are getting a little bit better, I'm not going to lie. Do you think that it would be beneficial to maybe change that from the 4 years to, you know, maybe 12 monthly, or if we start securing all of our own funding, reviewing this process? I think, judging by talking about how fluid it is, there might be some benefits there.
I think the policy sort of sets the strategic, you know, objective. We can change our procedures under that at any time, and I think that's what we're doing. From my perspective, the policy is very prescriptive and kind of doesn't allow that flexibility, and I think that it's been written in a way because we didn't have the guidelines underpinning it, so we were relying on that policy to really provide direction. So, and looking at other councils' policies, they are at that sort of next higher level, and then informs the processes and then we can be a bit more agile. So that's where I'd be looking to go. Yeah.
So just on that. So the policy that we have was adopted back in 2019. So as per our, I think it's a generic 4-year cycle, and although it is earmarked to be reviewed in 2023, Tara, when do you think we'll be reporting back to council, given sort of this refresh look at and, you know, refinement of what we're doing? I expect it to be sometime next calendar year.
Yes, I'd like it to be, early next year. Yeah. I'd like to learn a little bit more from you know, the processes that we put in place. So yeah, I'll be saying maybe the second quarter. Yeah.
Any other questions for Tara or Sam or Henry? Doesn't look like it. So I think we might wrap up. Thanks everyone. Great insight into procurement. Very thorough presentation. Look forward to the policy review and also just some exciting projects. I mean, it's all about projects and delivery, really.
I just say thank you to Tara for the presentation. She's a little bit nervous coming into today's presentation, but I just say that she's amongst friends. So you've done a great job, Tara. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. I could say I'm a YouTube star now. My kids.
You are. You're on there. You're there forever. Never goes off.
Gosh, I hope not.
You don't have to get used to it because these are things more regular.
Let's close up the Zoom.
Oh, no.